Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hansbrough up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
Drink responsibly tonight. I'll be drinking with you.
Jarrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. We have a wild slate of college basketball to break down. That Creighton-Providence overtime thriller ended at the perfect time for you guys to come over and tap in and join us as we talk about what happened in the world of college basketball tonight. My name is Rob Dauster. I have Tyler Hansbrough with me. I have Mack with me. We're going to be breaking down the Big East and everything that happened in that league today. We had a couple thrillers in there. Xavier and Villanova, both right there on the bubble. We have a lot to talk about with them. I'm going to be diving into rivalry hangovers and problem with beating the biggest game or winning the biggest game of your season, sometimes with guys that have played in the biggest rivalries in the sport. But before we do all of that, we got to dive into the SEC because all of a sudden that is one of the most interesting conference races that I've seen in a long time. Auburn beats Alabama 99-81. Tennessee wins at home against LSU, and there is now effectively a four-way tie atop of that league with Auburn, Alabama, South Carolina, and Tennessee, who's a half game back in the win column. But we got to start with Auburn, who put up 99 points on an Alabama team that is not exactly known for their defense. Mack, Jalen Williams, 26 points. Johni Broome, 24 points. They got 50 out of their front line. How good is this Auburn team?
They're good, and anybody that's ever watched the Bruce Pearl team or had the good fortune of coaching against them, you know how hard their kids play. And, obviously when Alabama's on the docket, they're going to be extra revved up. I think Johni Broome said before he was 0 against Alabama. So they were loaded for bear. They played their asses off. For a long time in the first half, Rob, it was like one possession game, back and forth. And then the last 4 minutes of the first half, boom, the 15-2 run. I think the difference in the first half was just the turnover disparity. Alabama turned it over, I think, 10 times. Auburn had just one turnover. And then it really was never a game after that. I really like Auburn. Again, I think Bruce's teams play extremely hard. They've got that system. They run a little bit of a flex at you. He lets his guards have a little bit of freedom, but not as much as maybe in years past. So I really like where they're headed. Big win for them, not having beaten them in a long time.
Yeah, we're gonna come back to that guard conversation in a second. But before we do, we have our big man that loves big men more than anybody in college basketball. Tyler, what do you think of Johni Broome, man? I don't think he gets enough credit for just how good he is and how impressive he's been. 24 points, 7 boards, 5 blocks, 2 steals, 2 assists. He knocked down a 3, 9 for 11 from the line. You got to talk about this guy.
He was all over the court tonight, and he did everything for Auburn. But also, I really think that defensively, he was too big for Alabama. I thought he was his size and physicality was too much for them. And when I looked at the overall game, I would say that Auburn, they definitely had a size advantage and their physicality down low with Johni Broome, who is just an underrated big. And I've talked about it. I think he's one of the better bigs in the country. I just felt like he was too much for Alabama tonight. And Auburn really pressured them defensively, made them turn the ball over, which is a huge difference. And for me, that was kind of what dictated the game.
Mack, when we think of Bruce Pearl teams, at least for me, especially with this Auburn program that he's built, it's guys like Jared Harper, right? It's guys like Bryce Brown. It is building a team of little guards that can kind of go create stuff on their own, that are going to force turnovers, that are going to run in transition, that are going to go and spot up from 3 and combine that with enough size and athleticism up front to be able to win games. This team, the last 2 years, I think the problem is that those small guards didn't realize that they were great small guards. Like Jared Harper was a great small guard. I think the last 2 years, those guys maybe didn't quite realize who they were. I don't know if they have a great backcourt this year, but it feels like that group understands who they are and what their role is with this team. And I think that's really important when it comes to building a roster.
I think that's the most important thing, Rob, and you said it. I think if, Trey Donaldson, for instance, was trying to play like, guards of yesteryear and taking some wild shots, I wouldn't necessarily trust Auburn as much as I do right now. But I think they know where their bread's buttered. They have a tremendous front court. Like Tyler talked about, Janai Broome was a monster inside. And then you pair him with Jalen Williams, who can do a little bit on the outside. He can get to the rim. He can shoot the 15-footer. They've got a very, very formidable front court, but I think it all starts with the understanding that their guards have that they're not the show. This isn't like the circus where they're coming down and taking wild shots like we've seen in years past. And, give Bruce Pearl his credit. No matter who's on the floor for them, those guys play hard as nails. Whether he's at Tennessee, whether he's at Auburn, whether he was at Southern Indiana, it didn't matter, man. His kids have always played hard, and you certainly saw that tonight against their in-state rival.
Yeah, Mack, with what Bruce has been able to build there, did you ever think that Auburn could get to the point where we're looking at it as one of the toughest home environments in the SEC, one of the best and most sustainable programs in college basketball? I mean, they've been right there at the top of that conference, one of the best conferences in the entire sport for probably 6 to 7 years, though, at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. His first year at Auburn, we at Xavier played an away game. And, they were just starting to build their program. They'd only been there a handful of games. I think it was the game right before Christmas. Tyler knows all about those type of games. Mm-hmm. And, it was an okay crowd, but it was one of those crowds that because of their style, because of, Bruce's antics on the sideline, and he was trying to get, the crowd pumped up. He's trying to establish his program. Those 7,000 or 6,000, whatever it certainly wasn't a sellout. They were on their feet, and we went from having a 10-point lead at halftime to, losing a heartbreaker in overtime, and just you saw the very beginning of it, that game, at least I did. But it's no surprise to me. I mean, he's won wherever he's been. He builds it. It is in the heart of football country, as we know, but his kids play hard, and I think that resonates with fans. And obviously, they've been really good. They've gone to multiple NCAA tournaments. So you give them a lot of credit, that where the program's at right now.
Tyler, where do you stand on Alabama? Because I'm torn on them. I think when you watch them play, Mark Sears is as good as any point guard in college basketball. They can score as well as any team in the country. They get up and down the floor. It is not the easiest style of basketball to play against. But when things go bad for them, at Auburn, they gave up 99 points tonight. At Tennessee, they gave up 91 in a 20-point loss. In that game against Arizona in Phoenix, they gave up 87. A loss at Creighton, they gave up 85. The loss to Purdue in what was effectively a road game, they gave up 92 points. A loss to Clemson, they gave up 85. A loss to Ohio State, who was completely fallen off the wagon, they gave up 92 points. Do you trust this team defensively?
Do I trust them defensively? Well, I think they're vulnerable because I think they lack size. And I think that Auburn kind of exposed them tonight a little bit inside with their front court. But when I look at their metrics and I sit here and look at the data, they have the net ranking of they're fifth in the net ranking, and they're 3-4 in quad one wins. They beat Indiana State, beat Mississippi State on the road, and then they beat Auburn at home. So that's not too impressive for me. And I know that they have the net ranking of, they have the fifth net ranking, whatever that means. And however they figure that out, that's pretty good. But tonight, I would say they need a couple more quality wins to really help their resume. But I would say they lack size and they need some help whenever they face teams that have these dynamic bigs like Broome and Williams.
Yeah, they really could have used Charles Bediako this year had he not gone to the NBA. Mack, I kind of look at this Alabama team and I look at them as maybe the same vein as like a Kentucky or a Baylor, where I don't think that I'm in on them enough defensively to be able to win 4 games in the NCAA tournament. They can beat anybody because they can go out and put up 110 on anybody on any given night. I can't get over the issues that they have defensively.
Yeah, and you brought him up. I mean, Charles Bediako a year ago erased a lot of mistakes. When you're a perimeter defender and you have a guy behind you that is going to not just block 3 or 4 or 5 shots, but he's also going to alter them. He's also going to make guys not even take them. They're not going to take off balance tough floaters sometimes when there's a 7-footer in there as imposing. And Alabama doesn't have that. So a lot of times, the habits that those guys have created defensively, they're not a lockdown team. Certainly I think the way Nate plays, his offensive style, they want to be free flowing. They want to take quick threes. They want to take as many threes as they can. That can bite you in the ass when you have to get stops if you're not used to it. And they haven't figured that part out yet. I don't know if they will, but they can't allow 80 to 90 points a game and think that they're going to be long for the NCAA tournament, in my opinion, even though they're really talented on the offensive end.
All right, so Tennessee got a big win tonight, Tyler. We talked about Auburn. We talked about Alabama. South Carolina is right there, tied for first place as well. You got to give me a pick. Who is the best team in this conference as of today, and who is the most dangerous team in the NCAA tournament, and is that the same team?
Absolutely not. I'm going to go with actually Tennessee right now. I think Dalton Connect's playing as good as anybody in the country, and also I think Zakai Ziegler is starting to find his rhythm and coming back to be the player he was before he tore his ACL. And I know a lot of people are going to say that Kentucky has the potential to be a national champion. They are still very young, and I'm not sold on young teams because I think older, more veteran teams have proven themselves more lately in the tournament, especially with the extra COVID year. So right now I would have to lean towards Tennessee, but also I have seen Tennessee lay some duds. When they came to the Smith Center, we absolutely railroaded them, and I've seen them have some off nights too. That's why I'm not sold on them being a contender. But right now in the SEC, I think they're the team to beat.
Yeah, Mack, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I want to tip my hat to Tennessee, but if Dalton isn't getting 30, and I know Zakai Ziegler is a terrific player, and Josiah James is playing as well as he has in his entire career. I keep going back to Kentucky's talent level. And I'm with Tyler, man. But I also remember the beginning of the year when they were beating Kansas down. Just their ability to score. Rob Dillingham, and Antonio Reeves, those guys, they're on another level. And I know that they're not very consistent and very good defensively. I think they'll grow up a little bit.
Putting it
but
nicely,
I also
Matt.
think no matter what's that.
That saying they're not very good defensively is putting it nicely.
I know that, but I'll say this: I think when the time comes and they're in the NCAA tournament and whoever they're matched up against, that team's going to be in all of their talent level and their shot making ability and their ability to create. And I think the best is yet to come for Kentucky. I don't think I would vote them as the team that's going to win the SEC. Obviously, they're out of first right now. They have way more than 2 losses in the league. But to me, they have the makings of getting the furthest in the NCAA tournament. However far that carries them, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very concerned with them defensively, Mac. I took a deep dive into what they did defensively. I downloaded 500 possessions of them on the defensive end because I was going to do this thing where, I'm going to solve the problem of Kentucky's defense for John Calipari and make some, video out of it and get all this clout on the internet. And I made it through about 25 minutes of the Tennessee game before I had to stop watching because it was so bad. Half the time, I can't even figure out what they are trying to do in ball screen coverages. They looked like freshmen on that end of the floor. But real quick, guys, this is where we got to talk about Vaulted. Vaulted is an app that allows you to participate in daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. It's the place you can store your own predictions forever, and by using the Vaulted Challenge feature, you can prove you're smarter than your friends. Go download Vaulted, that's VLTED, to challenge your friends, store your predictions, and join daily cash prize pools without an entry fee. Guys, I'm saying that Auburn is the best team in the conference. I'm saying that they are the team that can make the deepest run of the tournament. I think that their guards are dangerous. I love their front line. I think that Broom and Williams are as good as anybody that you are going to find at the college level at the 4 and the 5 spot outside of like Zach Edey, right? And I'm in on what they can be defensively. I think that they have bought into this identity that Bruce has built there. And every time I watch them go out and do something like put up 99 points in Alabama, I'm more in on them as well. We got to get to a break. On the other side, we're going to talk about Providence and Creighton and that thriller up in Providence. What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to fieldof68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the fieldof68.shop. Welcome back to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. The last time that you heard from us, Coach Chris Mack was saying nice things about the school in Kentucky in the Bluegrass in Lexington, and he has a blue hoodie on. I just want to make it very clear that is not a Kentucky hoodie that he is wearing. That is an IMG Academy hoodie, okay? Chris Mack, former Louisville coach. I just thought I had to clarify that for you, Chris. I didn't want to put you in a bad spot. All right, we got to dive into the Big East. Tyler Hansbrough, Rob Dauster, Chris Mack. We're live, Sirius XM, Channel 84. We are streaming over on Stadium. Providence, Creighton, overtime. It was yet another ridiculous thriller played by the Creighton Blue Jays. They lost this one at Providence. The final score was 91-87. Devin Carter finished with 28 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals, and the biggest shot of the game, a 35-foot three with 14 seconds left in regulation to force overtime. Before we get into just big picture what this means for Providence, Mac, how good is Devin Carter?
Oh, man. You know, and as good as he is skill-wise, just, you know, there are certain players that are never too big for the moment. That the moment isn't too big for them. They relish it. Like you almost know, hey, if this is a tie game and there's 20 seconds left, whether they're on defense or they're on offense, they're either going to get a steal, they're going to come up with a key block, they're going to make a huge shot, you know, and he's that guy. You know, this isn't the first time. I mean, he does it seemingly every game. He plays with tremendous toughness, but always seems to make the big play in the game's biggest moment, man. What a dude. He is a hell of a player.
Yep. Tyler, Josh Aduro. It was kind of a two-man show for Providence tonight. Josh Aduro had 32 points, 12 boards, 3 assists, going up against one of the best defensive centers that you're going to find in college basketball. There's no doubt in my mind that if you're watching Josh Aduro play, Tyler, that you love this dude's game. I have no doubt about it.
Scrappy player, and like you said, having that night against Kalkbrenner, one of the best defenders in the country, extremely impressive. I watched the game, and I honestly thought Creighton was going to pull it out. I felt like they had the momentum, and Providence just took it from them, and they had an answer every single time. This is actually one of the best games I've watched all year, and some of the shots that Carter hit descended into overtime. and then some of the shots at Creighton, went back down and had an answer for unbelievable game. But Odoro had an unbelievable night against one of the best defenders in the country.
Yeah, this was a massive win for the Friars, who came into tonight ranked 58th in the net, 4-5 in quad 1 games, 2-3 in quad 2 games. They don't have any bad losses, but it was kind of one of those things where they were stacking up L's. And even if you don't have anything that's going to weigh down your resume, it can be kind of tough to be able to put yourself in a position to get a good seed, especially when a lot of what they did came with Bryce Hopkins in the lineup. So they've now beaten Creighton at home, Wisconsin at home by about 30, and Marquette at home as well. And they got that win at Seton Hall. That's their last quad 1 win. So really, really important win for the Friars to be able to boost their tourney hopes. Another team that boosted their tourney hopes a little bit was Xavier, who beat Villanova in the Cintas Center 56-53, surviving one of the least impressive final possessions I've ever seen in my life. I'm not sure what Kyle Neptune was doing there, but I want to start with Sean Miller, Mack. I want to start with Xavier, not having their starting 2 big men, having to go out and get a couple of freshmen from Europe just to be able to make sure that you actually had a couple guys on the front line to be able to play for you. Quincy Oliveri has been awesome. McKnight's been really good this year. How impressive is this job? Like, how difficult is it to do what Sean Miller has done, not having those starters available to him?
Incredibly difficult, because he didn't lose those guys in the off season. He basically lost those guys in the fall, when he didn't really have, much, if any, time to really replace them. He didn't have an opportunity to really go in the portal. So he brings over some young international players that, the Big East isn't that conference where you want to put some, young international type Euros in the game as freshmen. And they're growing. Eric Dixon goes 5 for 15. Of course, Xavier was doubling him, every time he put the ball on the floor, but so do other teams. I thought it was a masterful game plan. Villanova, to me, and I've said this, and this is not to discredit Xavier in any way, shape, or form. They busted their ass, and they've been playing way better here as of late. But Villanova is just not the same team from 3. I'm watching some of the threes over the last month or so that they're getting, open threes, and they're shooting like 32% as a team, and that's not the Villanova that I used to coach against, I can tell you that. They really struggle shooting open threes. And until that changes, the way they play, they don't push the ball at you unless it's just an obvious steal. They sort of walk the ball up. They rely on Eric Dixon, both inside and out. And when he gets doubled and the ball gets thrown out, you have to make those shots. And that's what Villanova always buttered their bread on. They are tremendous on the defensive end. They're going to compete their tail off. But offensively, I just don't think they have a whole lot of answers. And give Xavier credit, man. That last possession, I know you talked about Coach Neptune maybe not drawing up the greatest play in the world, but hey, man, you're a college basketball player. You got 20 seconds and you can't get off a shot. Xavier switched exceedingly well. They communicated all their switches. There was no airspace for a guy to even get off a shot. I don't know if I've seen that this year. That was really impressive. Xavier's been a lot better here as of late, and they're giving themselves a chance to be in the conversation.
Yeah, Tyler, they've won 3 in a row. They've won 6 of their last 8. They have a couple quad 1 wins. They also have a couple quad 3 losses, so they still have quite a bit of work left to do. But they get Creighton at home on Saturday. They still get Marquette on the road. They actually play Marquette twice, so they have 3 chances to really land a marquee statement win here. I think Villanova at this point, I'm kind of out on them having a chance to make the tournament. They've lost 6 out of 7. They've lost 7 out of 9, and I just don't see this thing turning around. But Tyler, if you see Xavier getting in, is this the kind of team that you think can make a little bit of noise? Is there a chance they can get to like a second weekend?
They're going to have to improve a little bit more for me, and I'm with you on Villanova. I saw them bust Carolina up at the Bahamas. They haven't really made the progress. Saw them out on them as well. But Xavier, you got to give Sean Miller a lot of credit, and he's doing things that a lot of people really didn't think was possible this year. I think he is putting them in the conversation. Obviously, I'd like for them to build their resume up a little bit. They have their chance against Creighton coming up. And to me, Creighton is one of these teams that's kind of one of those dark horses. I've always believed in Creighton. I'm just throwing this out there. I think Creighton is a team that can make some noise. But Xavier, I'm not really sold on them quite just yet.
Yeah, they have good guards, but that front line is always going to be a question mark. There is, as of now, I think it's fair to say there are probably 5 bubble teams from the Big East currently in the NCAA tournament picture. I would say that Connecticut, Marquette, Creighton, and oddly enough, Butler are probably at a place right now where they are I don't want to say comfortably in for Butler, but they're on the right side of the bubble. And then Seton Hall, Xavier, St. John's, Providence, and Villanova all have a chance to be able to make something happen. Speaking of Seton Hall, they beat Georgetown at home today. And there was I don't know if you would call this a funny incident or what, but one of the Seton Hall beat reporters captured an interaction with Ed Cooley and the Seton Hall student section. You can kind of see what happened there, which is, if you guys know Ed Cooley, you can I can kind of picture him saying this in my head. And I'm sure it reads a lot worse in writing than it probably sounded when they were in the building. But I do think it kind of captures, Chris, a little bit of the frustration that he's going with right now. Have you ever run into that? You ever cussed out a student section before?
No, I don't think I've cussed them out. There have been some funny ones over the years.
I think it shows you a little bit of the frustration that he's been dealing with
For sure,
since things are just not going well at Georgetown. So my big question is, all right, he's told us that they're going to have NIL money available. And from what my understanding is that the biggest issue that he's running into is kind of getting that first guy to commit, that first domino to fall, right? Players at that level don't necessarily want to go to a program where they're going to be playing with a bunch of guys that aren't quite on their level, and it's hard to land that first guy. So I'm going to put you right now. You're taking over. You're the head coach at Georgetown. You are in Ed Cooley's shoes. How do you get this thing going? How do you build it back up? What's your first step?
Well, I think the first step is to make sure that the guys that are in your program now, particularly Epps and Styles, come back. And today's day and age where guys can transfer without, any penalty, whether it's the first time or second time, that's a big challenge. But I think you have to have some type of stability from year to year with your roster. They're simply not deep enough right now. I mean, look at their bench scoring tonight. It was non-existent. I'm not saying that their starting 5 can compete for a Big East championship, Rob, but you have to build depth. If you can't necessarily have 2 or 3 of the best players in the league, you better have 9 guys that you can count on night in, night out to play their asses off, to score a little bit, to play the way that you implement your program. And I don't think they have that right now. I think they have a few guys here and there. He may not be able to get a Carmelo Anthony type guy or Hansbrough type guy in the offseason. But he's got to get more depth. I think he needs more quickness. And certainly with the transfer portal, now more than ever, especially, the guys that aren't going to be penalized for transferring a second time, I think he's got to do a bang-up job. And it's difficult, man. It's like chicken or the egg. Recruits aren't going to come until you start winning a whole lot. And you're not winning a whole lot without really good players. But I think where I'd start is keeping those guys that are on the roster that are contributors in my program. And then I'd make sure that I have quality depth next year in order to compete at a better level than they are right now.
Yeah, you mentioned really good players. We are now joined by a really good player here who I hope is going to be showing up on the screen here in just a second. Devin Carter, the star of the night for the Providence Friars. He finished with 28 points, 11 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals, 5 threes, including a 35-footer, and that was measured. It was 35 feet, Devin, to force overtime in the amp, not the dunk. It is the amp. So, Devin, I want to start with this. You're lining up that shot. You're 35 feet away from the basket. You see your guy kind of take a step back because, who's going to shoot a shot from out there? What's going through your head, and did you know it was going in when you let that thing go?
Yeah, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, yeah. Shoot. First of all, all glory to God, man. Take that back to AU days. I mean, back in the day when I used to play AU, I shot a lot of 35 footers, and I mean, those are shots that I work on. Even after practice today, shoot around. When my dad's in town. We get shots up all the time, shooting from 35 feet. So, I mean, it's shots that I practice. So, I mean, the shots that I expect to make, for sure.
Devin, man, Chris Mack, big shot tonight. Like like Rob said, man, super big win for you guys. Tell me a little bit about, obviously Bryce Hopkins was a huge part of your
Right.
team. Him going down, how has the team changed since he's gone down in your mind?
I mean, Bryce brought a lot to the table.
Yeah.
We have a lot of freshmen who are starting to pick up a lot of what Bryce did. So, I think they're coming along great. I think the most important thing that Bryce brought was his rebounding. Uh, I mean, we struggled with that some games, and I mean, I thought we did a great job today. So, that's what I say. Bryce, though we missed the most about Bryce, his rebounding, and obviously, anytime he wants to get a bucket, he can get a bucket. So, it's always great to have that on your team.
Hey, Devin, Tyler Hansbrough, big shot tonight. Uh, I was just curious, what was the actual play call right there in that situation? And when did you know you're going to fire it?
Um, I forgot the play call. I mean the play was
It
eventually,
looked
I
like
think,
it.
to get. What was that?
I said it looked like it.
No, I think the play was eventually was supposed to go to our big man Josh, who also had a great game. I think the play was supposed to go to him. I mean, we didn't have to shoot a three, but I mean, I saw my man backed up off me, so just let it go.
Yeah, from 35 feet, you might as well, right? I call the big fella Josh Olajuwon. 32 points tonight, 12 boards. Just talk to me about the value and how important it is to your offense to be able to just kind of throw the ball into him and know that you're either going to get a good shot or he's going to draw a foul.
Yeah, I mean, he's his IQ is amazing for the game. I think that anytime the ball goes into him, he can score when he wants. He's very unselfish. So I mean, if they don't double team him, it's either a bucket. But if they double team him, he's smart enough to know to kick it out to the open man. So I mean, Josh is a big addition to our team.
Yeah. Well, listen, Devin, I know your dad's in town. I want to make sure that you have a chance to go celebrate with him. Hell of a win tonight. Hell of a performance. And then I can tell you this as someone that grew up as a UConn fan. I don't know if there are 5 players in college basketball I enjoy watching more than you. Best of luck the rest of the season, man, and go enjoy your family. Listen, we are going to get to a break here on the
Thank you.
field of
Appreciate it.
68 after dark. On the other side, I have 2 guys that have played in some of the most intense rivalries in college basketball. We're going to talk about Duke's win. We're going to talk about Carolina's hangover, and we're going to talk about how difficult it is to deal with a big win like that. As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Field 158. Welcome back to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Tyler Hansbrough, Chris Mack. We're live on SiriusXM Channel 84. We are streaming over on Stadium and on the Field of 68 YouTube channel. All right, Duke won tonight. I don't even know what the final was. I was too busy watching the end of that Providence-Creighton game. 71-53 over Notre Dame. Mark Mitchell had 13 and 10 again. Kyle Filipowski wasn't great, and it feels like no one on Duke was really all that great tonight. Tyler, I know that you actually have, as weird as it sounds, some nice things to say about this Duke team. You've been fairly complimentary of them so far this year. What did you see them tonight? What have you seen this season? And has the result on Saturday, as much as you celebrated it, kind of changed the way that you look at them big picture at all?
Listen, I still don't think that Duke has played to their potential all year, and they are a team that has a lot of talent. And I would say if they do come together and they play their potential, their ceiling is as high as any team in the country. And also that's why everyone had them ranked so high preseason-wise. But Filipowski, like I said, I think they're one piece and away from – really using him correctly. I think the problem is last year they had Lively down low who really developed late in the year and kind of made up for a lot of mistakes. Like we talked about with Bediako with Alabama, he blocked everything and contested everything at the rim. They don't have that this year. And Filipowski is required to guard guys like Armando down low and get on a bang, and then they're asking him to be a dynamic big on the outside. I think that's a lot for him. But they do have the McCain kid. He is coming along. He can really play. Jeremy Roach is a kid who can hit shots. And the Tyrese Proctor kid, I think he still has a lot of growth to do, and I think he can be one of these players that is, emerging. I'm not sure that he's met the expectations that you had on him preseason or if he'll ever meet those. But Duke is a good team. I do think their ceiling is very high.
Mac, I'm always concerned about teams where I don't know if they're necessarily getting great guard play. And I think Jeremy Roach is really, really good. And I think that Jared McCain is really, really good. And I think that Tyrese Proctor has shown flashes of being really good. I don't know. There's something about their guards where maybe it's because they have a group of smaller guards. Maybe it's because I'm not buying into them defensively. Am I reading into it too much? And again, let's put this into context. We're talking about them as a top 10 team in America.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Like, it's like Tyler said before, they've got talent. I don't think that they are dogs. I don't think that they play. Just think about like a Houston. Just the way those guys play and how hard they play. I don't get that when I watch Duke. And, having played against them, whether it was when I was an assistant at Wake Forest, head coach at Louisville, I always felt like Duke's intensity was at another level, and I'm sure you saw that, Tyler, when you played, and obviously a huge rivalry game. But I don't see that type of intensity. I don't know if it's the makeup of those kids. I think they're talented, but until they play with a little bit more intensity, for me, I don't see them as being a threat to win a national championship. And I don't think I'm going out on a limb when I say that. I think Tyler's right when he talks about Lively being gone. It puts Filipowski maybe in a better position offensively, but not defensively. And, I still don't think at times they know how to use him very proficient. Because Mitchell's, he's 10 feet and in to me. And so I just think that, I don't know, I think they got a ways to go. And it's approaching mid-February. They better figure it out soon, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
to Duke standards.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let me put it into context, right?
Yeah, like that. Whenever we have conversations like this, everyone's like, "Why do you hate Duke?" Well, we're talking about them as like a potential Final Four team, as a top 10 team in America. We're not talking about them as like someone trying to sneak into the NCAA tournament.
Right.
You have to nitpick a little bit when it comes to the best teams, and there's a high standard of play. Like we just watched Devin Carter and talked to him, and you see the way that he plays. It is a little bit different than what you kind of see from those Duke guards. I do agree with that point there. Tyler, I want to ask you this because one of the things we heard from Armando Bacot last night after the loss to Clemson was that they kind of did not have a great couple of days of practice, right? I think he said that they were actually kicked out of practice on Monday. They had a bad shoot around Tuesday morning, and then they were late to the arena on Tuesday night before the game. Coming down from a big win like the win over Duke, like that rivalry game is not always the easiest thing to do. How big of a letdown is it? And did you ever experience that when you were playing in that rivalry game?
I would say the toughest part about the rivalry is, not overlooking the opponent you have before the game. It's not necessarily having a win and then having a huge letdown the next game. But when I played, there's one rule with Coach Williams: you are never late. And if you're late for anything, you're going to be running, and that's the way it was. There's going to be some consequences. So you're only late once when I was in school, and that's enough to learn learn to never be late again. But when I look at this game from last night and the letdown that everyone's talking about against Clemson, yeah, it was a little bit of a letdown. They didn't come out and have their best start, but also they didn't have Seth Trimble. Seth Trimble is one of those guys who Mack just talked about. To me, he's a dog. He comes in, he plays his role, and there's a lot of players that place a lot of emphasis on scoring. And he's one of those guys that has really embraced the defensive end, and he's really done his part to have a positive impact on the game to really help this team. And the more minutes that he's gotten, you've seen some more offensive production out of him. When you saw us go a little stale in the Duke game, he's a guy that came in off the bench and gave us 10 points and also gave us a big lift, and he plays with such energy. I really felt like we were missing that. But we did come out flat. And if you look at the game that we had at Clemson, Clemson had an awful night. They didn't shoot the ball well, and then they start the game. P.J. Hall got hot. Joe Girard seemed like he had wide open three-point shots. And if you're going to let those guys shoot, especially Joe Girard wide open three-pointers, you're going to pay. And, it was a little bit of a letdown, which – is a little bit uncharacteristic for how older of a team that UNC is right now and what they've done so far this year. But hopefully, they learned their lesson because they lost to Georgia Tech, they beat Duke, and then they had another loss. And so you've got to turn around and get it in the right direction and learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, as John Henson put it on our show last night, guys, sometimes it takes a little while to sweat out the Casamigos. I don't know what he is trying to infer there about that, but apparently John Henson is a big Casamigos fan. Mack, when you've coached in the Xavier Cincinnati rivalry, which we all know is as intense as it gets. You've won a game for Louisville against Kentucky in that rivalry, which is about as intense as you can find in college basketball. Either before those games or after those games, how do you handle that as a coach? How do you find a way to keep your guys from focusing on the thing that obviously everybody else is focusing on?
Yeah, I think I'm on Tyler's page when it comes to, is your focus stolen? Let's say you play your rival on a Saturday and you have another game on the Wednesday prior to the game. That's the game you worry about the most because fans are going to talk about it. Guys are going to class, fellow students are going to come up, hey, can't wait to play Kentucky this weekend or Cincinnati, and so it's the days leading up to the game, especially that game before, that I always worried about more. I think it was a little bit easier to put that rivalry game to bed because the results happened, right? If you lost it, obviously it's like, hey, this doesn't define our season. We got to pick ourselves up. What better way to get the taste out of our mouth than playing a game here in 2-3 days, whenever it was. If you won it, man, you had those guys' attention. Hey, we got to be able to put it behind us. We'll celebrate it tonight, but let's be that mature team and come back tomorrow, watch film, get ready for the next opponent. And, a big part of that too, Rob, is based on your roster. If you have older, experienced guys where the season means a whole lot to them and they know what they're playing for, whether it's a regular season championship, whether it's a high seed in the NCAA tournament, guys that have been through the wars, they understand that. And it's your job as a coach to just sort of emphasize that when that game's over with, in my opinion.
Yeah, you guys are both operating before knowing that college athletes now have NIL money to be able to celebrate a little bit better than maybe what we all did when when we were celebrating when we were in college. I want Tyler, give me your best memory from the and it doesn't have to be like the best thing that happened, but give me like the first thing that pops in your mind, the best story that you have from playing in that Duke Carolina rivalry.
For me, it would have been my freshman year. There wasn't a lot of expectations put on our team. They had just won the national championship before the 05 team with Big May, Ray Felton, and those guys. And then, my class comes in with not a lot of hype. And then we go over to Cameron, who had JJ and Sheldon Williams on their senior night, and we got a win. That was my favorite memory, and that was my first game in Cameron. Obviously, getting that win with Wes Miller, Bobby Frazier, Marcus Skinner, Danny Green, all those guys that we'd worked for, that was special, and especially all the criticism we had heard to start the year. But then just going back to UNC, that short drive, and then celebrating on Franklin Street with all my classmates, that was special.
Well, if you were a freshman and you were celebrating on Franklin Street, you were doing it without breaking any laws, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't have any adult beverages that night either. So,
Mack, if you were still the head coach at Louisville right now and you sat here on a show wearing a blue sweatshirt, would you be able to make it back to your house afterwards, or would someone stop you and rip that thing off your cold life?
No, I'd be able to make it back to the house, but it would be all over social media for sure by the time I got to my house. So those days I don't have to worry about it now.
I'm just glad that we were able to clarify. It's an IMG sweatshirt and not a Kentucky one, man. Listen, when we get back, we got to talk about something that Rick Pitino said. We also got to talk about the Big Ten because it got crazy tonight.
Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first-name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider the level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast. It really is that simple.
All right, welcome back to the Wednesday evening edition of the Field 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Chris Mack, Tyler Hansbrough. We're live Sirius XM Channel 84 and streaming over on Stadium. Make sure to stick around. In about 12 minutes, we're jumping over to Stadium to do a last call over there. We're going to answer all your questions, so jump in the chat and feel free to fire away. Before we get into Rick Pitino's thoughts on establishing a salary cap in the world of college athletics, I want to start with the Big Ten, because Wisconsin goes on the road and they lost at Michigan, which in a vacuum is not all that big of a deal until you consider that they had just lost at home to Purdue and are coming off of a loss at Nebraska. That's 3 in a row for Wisconsin, who at one point had sole possession of first place in the Big Ten not 6 days ago. So, Mac, How do you what's happening with the Badgers here? And is it too late at this point in the season to find a way to turn it around? Like, what do you do right now if you're Greg Gard?
I think you stay the course. I think you continue to believe in what got you to the point where you were 10 days ago. I think that trying to reinvent something. First of all, that's not how Wisconsin and Greg Gard's going to do it. They're just going to stick to how they play. They're going to stick to the fundamentals. They're going to just do them better. But if you remember, Rob, I think you were on the show about 10 days ago, and we were talking about Wisconsin. Can they win the Big Ten? And I said, hey, we're going to learn a lot more about Wisconsin over the next 10 days. And that wasn't a slight at them. I just don't think they're better than Purdue. And I think, going on the road and losing at Nebraska, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not what they aimed for, but it was a competitive game right down the very end. I think it went overtime, right? Wisconsin had them up, had them down 15 or so. And but that's a tough place to play. Purdue is Purdue. I really thought from the get-go that Purdue was going to go into the Kohl Center and beat them. Tonight, I'm sure they're on the heels of losing 2 in a row. Now they've got to turn it around. Going to Michigan's not an easy place to play, especially when you have the home court phenom, Doug McDaniel. But I think Wisconsin will be fine. I just don't think they were ever, in my opinion, serious contenders to win the Big Ten, because that's all Purdue in my mind.
Yeah, Tyler, I just want to make sure that everyone's clear on what just happened there. Mack is only in year 2 of doing Field of 68 after dark with us, but he made sure to highlight the thing that he said. Yeah, I was going to say.
I got one prediction right?
And you made sure to highlight it. You made sure that you weren't going to forget it. But all the things that you said that ended up going wrong, if we called you on it, you'd be like, I don't necessarily remember saying that. Maybe that's not the way that I phrased it. So Tyler, write that one down.
You want me to talk about that again real quick? You want me to talk about that again? 10 days ago, what I
Oh, man. Tyler, the Big Ten overall. All right. So this is what I want to ask you. The Big Ten has been a league where you see all of these big physical big men. But one of the reasons why they kind of get criticisms heading into the tournament is that when you have these big lumbering 5 men, like a Zach Edey, for example, like a Kofi Coburn a couple of years ago for Illinois, it can kind of make it difficult to match up with teams that want to go smaller, want to go pace and space. And that's kind of what you see from a lot of these mid-majors. Is that a concern for you for this crop of Big Ten teams heading into, as we're now 3 weeks away from the month of March?
Maybe a little bit. The Big Ten, to me, the only true contender is Purdue. And, people knock the Big Ten, but also it's a boring brand of basketball. They play a slow pace. There's not a lot of scoring. And, they see majority one style of play throughout the Big Ten, and I think that's a downfall of their conference. When you get to the tournament, you have to be able to play different styles. And you look at the ACC, traditionally, if you looked at Syracuse, they had the zone. Then Clemson, they used to get up and down and trap you the whole game when I was there. And then Florida State used to be a beat-you-up physical team. And you see a lot of different styles. And the same thing with the Big East. You see different styles. And the Big Ten, for the most part, has one style of basketball. And you've got to be able to mix it up. And you got to be able to prepare for different teams and different styles when it comes to the tournament.
Yeah, I'm glad you just mentioned that Clemson team, because I don't think there's a bigger surprise in the history of college athletics than Terrence Oglesby finding a way to average double figures for an Oliver Purnell Clemson team. Mack, I cut you off because I had to make fun of T.O. You were about to say something.
No, I wasn't.
Nothing else you want to celebrate getting right? No other points you want to make? Pat yourself on the back a little bit.
You're unbelievable.
All right,
I host the show.
Please take it over, man. It's pretty stressful over here on this side of it. All right, let's talk about what Rick Pitino said. I think Trevor, our producer, has the graphics that he can kind of throw up on the screen there, but I'll read it for the people listening. For basketball, have the Power 5 and Big East commissioners get together and create a salary cap between 1.5 and 2 million in NIL. All contracts delivered to the league and school offices. All other conferences establish their own salary cap. And basically, he just wants to be able to find a way to cap the amount of money that will be spent by these NIL collectives for different programs. He said, obviously, football is a different sport entirely. Do away with letters of intent and make athletes sign a 2-year binding contract, no different than professional athletes. I believe the NCAA should be taken out of the equation. Mack, your thoughts on Rick Pitino and what he just kind of said right there? Contracts, salary caps, 2-year deals, make this thing as professional gets.
Well, I think bigger than the salary cap issue is talking about multi-year commitments, which, right now a guy can transfer 2 and 3 times without penalty. And I think that's one of the biggest things that's going to continue to hurt the sport. I would say I think that we're coming to that. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I think at some point, there's too much litigation. There's too much talk. There's too much disparity. I just think that eventually, we're going to move to more of a professional, employment. And however that looks, and, whether, people get involved and start, purchasing schools and athletic departments and, private equity groups. I don't know, but I think it is moving that way, Rob. I think it'd be a lot more competitive, a lot more transparent with how things are going currently. But I do believe we're moving that direction.
Yeah, what I will say is this, that I think that being able to have those kind of 2-year deals where something is guaranteed is the only way that you're going to prevent the sport from turning into like basically what AAU is right now, where you have guys transferring every single year. And I think that one of the things that hampers college basketball more than anything else is you don't get guys like a Tyler Hansbrough. I think part of the reason why your generation of players, especially your generation at UNC, Tyler, is so beloved is that you kind of had the same group there for like 3 years, right? When you were there, it was all these upperclassmen that stuck together for a couple of years and found a way to win a national title. And I think that that's something that we're missing in college basketball. It's tough to identify with a bunch of guys when someone is a new transfer that's a junior that's going to leave before a senior year. And I just think that being able to build that connection between the fan base that is supporting them and finding a way to have that happen with the players on the court is the best thing for the sport, big picture. All right, let's real quick get into toast of the night. We got about a minute here left. Tyler, go to you first, man. Who are we toasting tonight? Who is your toast of the
Devin
night?
Carter, the big shot, coming on the field of 68 tonight too, so I've got to give him a shout out and toast.
There you go. Big shot, Devin Carter. Mack, who you got?
I'm going to go off the grid with this one. A kid I coached at Louisville, who's now at Seton Hall, Dre Davis. He's an incredible young man, comes from a great family. He gets 25, I believe that's his career high, 25 and 10, double-double in a win against Georgetown. So my toast is for Dre Davis, pride of Indianapolis.
I'm going to go you kind of stole mine a little bit, but I'm going to go with the guy that snapped Michigan's 5-game losing streak. Doug McDaniel, the home court phenom, got 16 points tonight as Michigan knocked off Wisconsin. Listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark. We're going to head over to Stadium right now. Last call. We are going to answer your questions for the next 12 minutes, and Chris Mack may or may not have